By the time we're done here, you're gonna be wondering why you didn't play this game sooner. Welcome to the Bone Zone. Did you know that Dragon Quest III is currently being remade by the same team behind Octopath Traveler? Square Enix is calling it an HD 2D remake, and they're hoping to make it the first in a line of similar projects. But the idea of remaking DQ games is nothing new. The first two games were remade for the Super Nintendo and the Game Boy Color. 4 through 6 of course had their DS remakes, with 4 and 5 getting Japanese-only remakes on the PS1 and 2. DQ11 was even remade for the 3DS, and that's only scratching the surface. Today we're going to talk about a remake so amazing that it's not only preferred by fans, but also by series creator Yuji Horii himself. If you thought DQ 1 and 2 were good, you ain't seen nothing yet. This is Dragon Quest III for the Super Nintendo. It is a true crime that Americans never got this game due to NX America being temporarily closed in 1995. Otherwise, we'd be saying that the top 3 Super Nintendo RPGs are Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy VI, and Dragon Quest III. The production values here are stunning, and honestly, I'm feeling a little nervous about trying to make this video. You ever been utterly gobsmacked by a game and tried to explain to your friends why they should play it, but there's so much to talk about that you can't organize your thoughts and you just start incoherently rambling? Yeah, that was me trying to get my buddies to play Nier Automata. You guys still need to play that, by the way. The game starts out very cinematically, with credits showing the main contributors between in-game scenes. Not long after you, the hero, are born, your father Ortega is called upon to venture to the archfiend Baramos' castle and restore peace to the land. By fighting a demon in an active volcano, holy shit! Unfortunately, he is presumed dead afterward, and the duty of saving the land is thrust upon your character, rather nonchalantly I might add. This is the most pragmatic mother I've ever seen. Takes the loss of her husband like a champ and not 5 seconds later offers up her own child to go on a life-threatening adventure in his place. So this is what qualifies as parenting in this world, huh? That's a good-looking title logo. Once your character grows up to the union-mandated hero age of 16, Lord knows your mother would have kicked you out the door at 10 if she could have, you're visited by a godly entity in a dream that wants to determine what kind of person you are by asking you some questions. Before we continue, oh my god, would you just look at all this detail. It had been 3 years since the DQ 1 and 2 remake on Super Nintendo, and it really shows. Better quality music, animated monster attacks, amazing spell effects, and detail, detail, detail. After answering the god's questions and playing through a brief scenario, I'm labeled as a violent person. Well, putting that aside, this is one of the many new additions to the DQ formula. You and your party members have personalities that determine stat growth. My character started out as a bully, which gives a small bonus to strength growth, but penalizes other stats pretty badly. Thankfully, it's really easy to change personalities using books and certain pieces of equipment. Like giving a garter belt to a female character gives her the sexy personality, which has no negative stat growth at all. The game does nothing to make these stat changes clear. This is the kind of information that would have been in an issue of Nintendo Power, but you can easily find the numbers online, and I recommend you do so that you don't wind up with any underpowered party members. As for party members, you get a great deal of customization since you can enlist whoever you want. I decided to keep it simple for my first playthrough, so meet my ragtag group of stoic heroes, Alex the warrior, Betty the mage, and Meru the cleric. These classes are pretty standard, but some of the others have little quirks that make them more interesting to have along. Thieves have a chance to steal an item after battle, and also get the ability to reveal hidden items on the screen. The dealer can appraise items, and the jester? The jester is just there for the memes. You know those weirdos that play Dark Souls with fists only, or a broken short sword? That's a party of jesters. You want to royally screw up your playthrough? Go ahead, take a couple jesters with you, see how it goes. Their only benefit is that they can naturally become a sage without the use of a special book. That's another addition. Later you find a temple that can change a character's class once they reach level 20. It resets their level, but they keep their stat boosts and any learned spells. This means that you can have a fighter that knows healing spells, or a warrior with the improved agility and item sniffing ability of a thief, which is exactly what I did. I swear this is the most useful spell in the game. Grinding up from level 1 isn't even that difficult once you know about the cave near Samanosa, or the metal slimes that spawn just outside of the temple. Yeah, they're still really hard to kill, but equipping someone with the bladed armor can make taking them down much easier with a little luck. Combat has been much improved from the previous games, with many more ways to deal damage now. I wound up using a boomerang with the hero for most of the game since the damage it piled on the whole enemy group was just too good. And there's way more attack spell variety now. The cleric gets some wind spells, and the sage gets all kinds of cool stuff. Fire, ice, explosions, she can turn into a dragon, and even become a copy of another party member. She also gets the subscribe spell. Give it a try, it's quite powerful. And I was very surprised by the kind of gear the cleric can equip. This isn't a Final Fantasy white mage kind of cleric, this is a your face, my mace kind of cleric. Your goal is to find 6 colored orbs to gain access to Baramos Castle, and unlike DQ1 and 2, which had a few interesting moments spread throughout the adventures, in DQ3, almost every leg of the journey is an interesting one. There was that time I retrieved a crown from a tower of bandits, and returned it to the king only for him to make me the new king. Later on I had to use an invisible herb to infiltrate a castle and solve a boulder pushing puzzle in the basement. And once I came upon a village that was eerily quiet, but when I used the darkness lamp to turn day into night, the residents appeared and behaved as if everything was normal. Hell, the game even does the old "did you lose a golden axe or a silver axe" thing, except unlike in the Minish Cap, it's not very useful here. There are so many more moments like this, but I'm trying to get people to play the game here, so I'll leave them as a surprise. Man, giant monkeys? Witches? Chinese-style dragons? Who designed the monsters for this game? Akira Toriyama? The time of day isn't just controlled by the darkness lamp, there's now a natural day and night cycle. This game must have been a nightmare for the fans to translate because visiting a village at night opens up a whole slew of new dialogue and opportunities. For example, here the shopkeep is awake, but return at night and his goods are ripe for the taking. It's called a hero's discount, I don't feel bad about it. Later on I had a scandalous late night rendezvous with the Queen of Isis Castle and got a wizard ring for my trouble. A very useful item that restores MP with a chance of breaking on every use.
A hero? What do you mean?
You know, a hero who could save people, like in Dragon Quest.
The video game?
There's a monster arena where you can bet on fights to win some gold, and probably my favorite addition, which I hope makes it into the new remake, a board game called Pachisi. There are 4 or 5 different boards spread around the map, and each has items that can be collected once on the board and once when you complete it. You can get gold, stat boost seeds, special equipment, and access to shops with expensive gear. But you can also get screwed and have a stat lowered, so it's not all beneficial. And man, I swear, those trapdoors have hero magnets in them. I got screwed so many times on those.
Horny, 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 horny.
Oh dude, I gotta talk about the mini medals. These have stuck around with the series ever since their introduction here, and they're everywhere. There's sort of a meta game with figuring out what kind of spots the devs thought would be good to hide a mini medal in, and sometimes the locations are pretty dumb, like a random spot in the floor. There is a certain amount of satisfaction in hunting them down, but that didn't keep me from spamming the crap out of the thief's item finding ability anytime I felt a little suspicious. You turn them into this guy who lives at the bottom of a well for some useful items, like the extremely powerful Bladerang.
When it's time to throw down, my brain just starts thinking in Dragon Quest terms.
Again with the Dragon Quest? What's so great about it?
Everything.
Have you perhaps noticed by now that the world map is strikingly similar to our own world? The similarity doesn't end there. Most of the places you visit are based on real-world locations. Here's Japan. This is clearly Egypt. And here's a Sioux Indian tribe. But hang on a sec, the first 3 games are called the Loto Trilogy, or Erdrick Trilogy for Americans. If this game is part of that trilogy, why doesn't it take place in the same world as those games? Consider this your official spoiler warning, because I'm about to get into some mind-blowing stuff. Once you gather all 6 orbs and use them to awaken the Phoenix Ramia, you can use her to fly to Baramos Castle, which by the way, this moment was absolutely incredible. After playing the game for so long and experiencing this world from the standard top-down angle, seeing it go all mode 7 with that musical theme that sounds so good you'd think the devs fit an entire symphony orchestra into your game cart. It well and truly left me speechless. Unfortunately, you only have to use her for less than a few minutes, but the theme was so good that it was reused for later games, like Dragon Quest VIII. So I fought my way through Baramos Castle, which was actually really fun to explore and a great grinding spot with all the liquid metal slimes. I then took on the big bad himself, and he was no slouch. I'd say he's even more powerful than Dragonlord was in DQ1. It took a while, but I eventually defeated him and made my traditional walk back to the starting village to report my success. I stood before the king and prepared to receive my fanfare of glory as I had in the previous 2 games, when suddenly... Oh no, we're not done yet. Baramos was only a servant of Zoma, a much greater evil who rules over the Dark World. That's right, the world from the previous games. The way there is opened up after Zoma reveals himself, and after hurtling yourself into the pit, you find yourself back in familiar territory. Suddenly, the legend of the original hero from the first game becomes clear. The hero that fell from the sky and saved the land was you. Dragon Quest III isn't a sequel, it's a prequel. For a game originally released in 1988 on the NES, this was unheard of. No game had ever done this before. Wrecking Crew wasn't a prequel to Super Mario Bros. It's no wonder that Yuji Horii is so revered in Japan. The man was a real trendsetter. As for the Dark World, it's not the entire map, and some things are a little different. Like the cave that's supposed to connect the North and South continents is still in the process of being dug. But one thing has remained the same. You have to find the Sunstone and Rainstaff to create the bridge to Zoma's castle, which segues nicely into one of the few issues I have with this game. It's not nearly as bad as it was in DQ2, but I did have to resort to a walkthrough to find a few key items. Annoyingly, the Sunstone isn't in the same place as it was in the original DQ. It's now hidden right here. Oh, you didn't think that was a room? Yeah, neither did I. Here's an important tip. Don't try to fight Zoma without the light orb. Turns out Ramia is good for a little more than just getting to Baramos Castle, but it's another thing that you'll likely need to learn from a walkthrough. The old DQ games definitely had this kind of problem too many times. You just can't expect the player to wander around the whole map, or in this case both maps, desperately searching for an important item to complete the game. People have lives. They have other games they want to play. Ooh, the dragon left behind an egg. Hey, could this be Dragonlord? Intriguing. Really though, these issues are nothing when compared to the sheer amount of work and passion that went into Dragon Quest III on the Super Nintendo. I can't believe it took me so long to finally play this game. It's not like I even had anybody telling me how good it is and I just never heeded their advice. Well, consider this your proverbial kick in the pants. Dragon Quest III is a masterpiece of RPG experiences, and if you call yourself a fan of the genre, then I have a simple question for you. What are you waiting for? I am loving this adventure through the DQ series. From here on, we leave the Loto trilogy behind and move on to the Zenithia trilogy. But first, there's a little side game I'd like to cover about a portly merchant that's both incredibly charming and infinitely frustrating. Become a spooky scary subscriber so you don't miss it, and I'll see you then. This is A Skeleton, signing out.